Hello students, today we will discuss about triggers for intraoperative bronchospasm. First we will understand physiology of bronchomotor tone. The walls of bronchi and bronchioles are composed mainly of smooth muscle and cartilage plates. The parasympathetic nervous system is dominant neuronal pathway that controls the airway smooth muscle tone. Postganglionic parasympathetic fibers innervate the airway smooth muscle down to the level of terminal bronchioles. Stimulation of the cholinergic nerves causes bronchoconstriction, mucus secretion, and bronchial vasodilatation. The irritant receptors are found just beneath the tight junctions of epithelial lining of the airway. The afferent and efferent connections of these receptors travel through the vagus nerve. The acetylcholine administered exogenously or released from the parasympathetic postganglionic nerves induces airway constriction by activating M3 muscarinic receptors on the airway smooth muscles. The beta adrenergic receptor activation causes bronchodilation. This figure shows muscarinic receptors M1, M2, M3 in the respiratory system. Above the central nervous system, vagus, M1 receptor stimulation, acetylcholine. When acetylcholine stimulates M3 receptors, which are situated on airway smooth muscles, mucous glands, and there is a negative feedback mechanism. M2 receptor inhibit release of acetylcholine by negative feedback mechanism. Now we will see the triggers. Triggers for intraoperative bronchospasm. First is the airway manipulation and the reflexes. Severe bronchospasm following the induction of the anesthesia is relatively uncommon, but well recognized complication often thought to be related to a reflex response to the tracheal intubation. The bronchospasm occurs due to tracheal intubation. The incidence of overall clinical bronchospasm is low. But there is a reflex increase in airway resistance that may occur much more often. The increase in airway resistance may result from change in the intrinsic smooth muscle tone, airway edema, or intraluminal secretions. The rapid changes in airway caliber following the airway instrumentation are thought to result of largely from parasympathetic nervous system stimulation or parasympathetic system activation of the airway smooth muscle. Such responses can be blocked by muscarinic blockade with either systemic or inhaled anticholinergic agents. The tracheal intubation without adequate neuromuscular blockade may also induce bronchospasm by inducing coughing. A cough will reduce lung volume, which in turn markedly increases bronchoconstriction in response to stimulus. In patients with known reactive airways, prevention of coughing at the time of tracheal intubation by using either deep level of anesthetic or muscle relaxant may help to minimize the likelihood of bronchospasm. This is about the airway manipulation and the reflexes. Now we will see anesthetics and other drugs or medications comprise a small proportion of trigger for perioperative bronchospasm. Aspirin and other NSAID, beta blockers, antibiotics, radiocontrast agents, opioids, and intravenous anesthetic agents can all evoke bronchospastic response. Reason: histamine, prostaglandin PGD2, and leukotrienes are all mediators for the response. For this response, inhibition of cyclooxygenase and prostaglandin synthesis and activation of leukotrienes in the respiratory tract is common pathway for bronchospasm due to NSAID. Then atracurium and mevacurium can also cause histamine release and it evokes bronchospasm, and it occurs especially when it is administered in large doses, that is atracurium or mevacurium when administered in large doses and if injection is very rapid. The muscarinic action of anticholinesterase agent, example is neostigmine, when administered to reverse the neuromuscular blockade can also precipitate bronchospasm. This response, that means bronchospasm due to neostigmine, can generally be prevented by using larger than normal doses of glycopyrrolate, that is more than 0.6 mg, or atropine more than 1 mg, and administering reversal drug in slow increments and over a period of 10 to 15 minutes, that will prevent the bronchospasm. Now we will see anaphylactoid or anaphylactic reactions. Anaphylactic or anaphylactoid reactions rarely occur. The neuromuscular blocking drugs, latex, antibiotics have been agents most commonly thought to cause anaphylactic reactions during anesthesia, with neuromuscular blocking drugs contribute for more than 60% of these. The most of the hypersensitive reactions are of immunologic origin, that is IgE mediated, or it is related to direct stimulation of histamine release. Either of these mechanisms can result in bronchospastic response that may or may not be accompanied by cardiovascular or cutaneous manifestations. In addition to treating hypersensitivity reaction with epinephrine, IV fluids, steroids, and antihistaminics, bronchospasm may require specific treatment with inhaled beta 2 agonist. This is about anaphylactic and anaphylactoid reaction. Then recent upper respiratory tract infection. The children with acute and recent URI are at greater risk for respiratory complications. Then exposure to the smoke. Cigarette smoking impairs mucus transport and pulmonary macrophage function. It also increases bronchial reactivity. Smoking also reduces closing capacity of the lung. Smoking also increases arterial carbon monoxide level. That means it increases arterial carbon monoxide level, it reduces closing capacity of lung, increases bronchial reactivity, and it impairs mucus transport and pulmonary macrophage function. The increased risk of respiratory complications as laryngospasm, bronchospasm in smokers has been documented. Even a passive exposure to the smoke has been found to be predisposed to such events in adults and the children. Now we will see about the how is the diagnosis of bronchospasm is made. Often the first manifestation of acute bronchospasm is number 1, sudden rise in peak inspiratory pressure. Second, the capnograph trace shows a long upslope. Third, the tidal volume delivered may decrease. Next, gas trapping and dynamic hyperinflation may lead to hypotension. Next, if there is a silent chest or lack of wheeze, it will indicate severe bronchospasm. Now we will see the differential diagnosis of the wheezing under general anesthesia. Number 1, pre-existing bronchospastic disease is a differential diagnosis. In this, it will consist of asthma, COPD, bronchopulmonary dysplasia. Next is bronchospasm induced under general anesthesia. DD will be number 1, tracheal intubation. Second, surgical stimulation under light plane of anesthesia. Third, hypersensitivity reactions, that is histamoid, anaphylactoid or anaphylactic reactions. Next, aspiration of gastric contents. Next, mainstream bronchial intubation or carinal irritation by the endotracheal tube. And last is pulmonary edema. This pulmonary edema may be cardiogenic or negative pressure pulmonary edema. This is DD. And there are the conditions which mimic bronchospasm, that is increased peak airway pressure, decreased tidal volume, and there is wheezing. These conditions are number 1, kinked tracheal tube or breathing system. Number 2, secretions. Third, obstruction of the tube by overinflated or herniated cuff, and pneumothorax. Pneumothorax may be simple or tension pneumothorax. Thank you. This is about the differential diagnosis.